Well, good day, everybody, and welcome back. Well, so you know that I have this little kid's toy digital camera that has a built-in thermal printer, and it makes these cute little thermal pictures or thermal prints. And I found that the dot matrix style printing renders the best tones with this thermal printer. Well, of course, the problem with thermal prints is they don't really last forever. So if you expose them to heat, it'll turn dark. And I've also seen thermal paper fade over time as well. Of course, it helps if you keep them in cool, room temperature or cooler environment, keep it out of the light, and these can last years. But I was interested in how can I use these little thermal prints as a source image to make, yes, that's right, silver gelatin darkroom prints. Stay tuned. And here I am out in my darkroom that I haven't used in a long while. Well, these pictures, we found the best print quality is this dot matrix. It's sort of a halftone looking print quality. But of course, because it's thermal paper, so I have this crazy hairbrained scheme that I was going to go out here in the darkroom and contact print these thermal prints to some lithographic film and make some internegatives. So I remembered that I had a pack of this Arista Ortho Litho 4x5 film. And if you're not familiar with this is like a graphic arts film. It is a high contrast litho film. It doesn't really reproduce the middle grays. It really does just blacks and whites. It's lithography film. So years ago, people were using this in pinhole cameras because it was an inexpensive source of black and white film that you could use in an enlarger to make enlargements. Well, I have a sheet of this craft foam. It's about 1/4 inch thick, and I use this for contact printing on the table of my darkroom. So here's how I do it. I take a sheet of the film out here. I lay it down here, and you don't want dirt on here. Try to keep it clean. So I take a sheet of the film, I lay it down here, and then I take one of the thermal prints like that, okay? And you'll notice it has a bad curl. You could reverse curl the paper before you lay it down. The other option is when you lay the sheet of glass, I'm using a 1/4 inch thick sheet of plate glass, you can kind of work the glass down like that to flatten out the paper so it doesn't wrinkle. If you have any fingerprints or marks on the glass, make sure they're cleaned off first like this is. Then I press down firmly to make a nice tight sandwich, so this black foam gives a nice cushiony surface so it'll conform to the print and the glass. So I'm using my enlarger as the light source for this contact printing with the timer down here on the base plate. And I develop it here on the other side of the darkroom. Now my setup here that I normally do for photo paper and prints, developer, rinse after the developer, stop bath, rinse after the stop bath, fixer, and then a holding bath after it's been fixed. And there are some of my negatives. There's a couple of things that makes this film different than conventional black and white film, besides the fact that it's high contrast litho film. One of those is that the plastic film base is thinner than regular 4x5 sheet film. The other issue is it does not have any notch codes in the corner of the film to tell you what's the front and back side of the film. However, it is orthochromatic. It is safe under red safe lights to use. So if you're looking at the film under the safe lights, the lighter colored side is the emulsion side. If you're looking at it under white lights, the side that looks less shiny is the emulsion side. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing involves the sensitivity of the emulsion to rapid changes in pH. So, the developer is a strong base solution. The stop bath stops the development by changing it to an acidic solution. However, if you make a rapid pH change from the strong base to the strong acid, you'll get hydrogen gas bubbles forming in the emulsion, which will blow a pinhole in the emulsion. So in order to prevent that, you have to do a slow pH change. So I go from developer to a rinse bath that is slightly mixed with a tiny bit of developer for 30 seconds. And then I go to this bath, which is water with a tiny bit of stop bath in it. So we're going from strong base to very, very weak base to very weak acidic solution to a stronger acidic solution, and that'll hopefully prevent those pinholes from forming. I process it emulsion side up in the tray so that as it's sliding on the bottom of the tray, it won't be damaging the emulsion. So I do it emulsion side up for all the steps, and then when I put it in the holding tray, I flip it over emulsion side down so that when I put the next negative on top of it, the corner, that sharp little corner of the negative, won't scratch the emulsion as it goes in. And that's just a safety precaution to keep you from scratching your film, because this is very delicate. So because this is not continuous tone film, it has no real grayscale. You just need adequate development to ensure that the dark parts of the negative are completely developed, and to ensure you don't have this mottling or haziness in the negative, which can happen with inadequate agitation. All right, so this is my test strip. It's in intervals of 5 seconds. 5, 10, 15, 20. It looks to me like 5 seconds is going to be fine. Okay, let's look at this print. Definitely a high contrast look, but that's what you get with this kind of process. Well, here are the inner negatives done with the Arista litho film. It is a delicate film, and you can maybe see right there, right here is a pinhole. This is a little scratch. There's a scratch. I think one right here, one maybe here. Couple little pinholes. So it's very delicate, both in mechanical handling as well as sensitive to rapid pH changes. So as far as the exposures, because there's no grayscale to speak of, you're really just trying to get the white background and the halftone dots reproduced. And you can see my paper right here. The paper itself is barely visible. So I thought all three of these negatives were pretty good, and I think this is a good medium, this kind of film. It's inexpensive compared to black and white panchromatic sheet film, so it's a good medium for this kind of application, because this is, after all, halftone dots, and that's what graphic arts film was kind of designed for. Well, these were the 3 prints that I made today from 3 separate thermal images. This one is my friend Ethan. The negative, or the inner negative, showed a little bit of shadow detail underneath the cap of his bill. I didn't get too much of it. I probably should have used a shorter exposure or stopped my enlarger lens down. But I do like the overall effect. There's some dark tones here that you can still see detail on. It really is an interesting effect, and it certainly is magazine-like or newspaper-like. This here was an image taken at the Special Collections Library, just of some reading chairs by the window with afternoon light coming in. This image here is of the Royal MME typewriter that they have in their printing museum. And you might be able to make out that Royal logo right there. It's an interesting image nonetheless, and I really like the half-tone dots, the texture that it has from the little toy camera. Well, it's a really interesting effect. I really like doing these pictures. I think there's a lot of potential for taking digital images off this little camera and making silver gelatin prints from them. Well, I really had a lot of fun making these inner negatives with the litho film, and then making the prints, making the enlargements. I hadn't done darkroom work in a while, so it was fun getting back to it. But also, because this is a lithographic process, there really isn't much grayscale in this. It's either white paper or black dots. It actually ends up being a little bit easier to do in terms of you don't really have to worry about the tones, all those middle tones in your tone curve of continuous tone black and white photography. This is essentially lithographic. It's half-tone dots, essentially, is what this is. So it's a fun effect. It's not super high resolution, but it does have a certain kind of an artsy look to it, I think. And it's also really nice to be able to like archive the images off of this little digital camera that normally would be on these fragile thermal paper prints, being able to archive them as film negatives and then silver gelatin prints. Well, this is a fun process. I hope you guys get a chance to try it yourself. If you have any questions about the process, drop some down below, and I'd be happy to talk to you about them. But in the meantime, stay well, stay creative, and have yourselves a great day. Bye-bye for now.